Hello everyone, welcome back to Ansarkari. We are continuing with the next topic. So there's a small topic before moving on to the next type of market structure that is going to be the monopolistic competition. So before that we are covering market concentration. So this is also going to help us in terms of measuring the scale, or we can say the intensity of the measure of competition which exists in the market, or we can say the competitive power of a single firm within the entire industry. And this would obviously, it will directly vary with the rate of profit of each firm. So if one firm is having a larger share of profit, its share of competitiveness would also be much more stronger relative to other market players which are there. So there are two ways of measuring this. First is the um, Herfindahl. It is the Herfindahl Hischman Index that we have. So under this, as we say that we are measuring the market concentration, so it measures the size of the firms in relation to the entire industry. So size is also one of the indicator of the competitiveness. So size of firms is measured under this. So there is again a statistical way of measuring it. So we have, let's say, 1 to n is the number of firms in the industry, and this is the formula. So SI, it indicates market share of the firm that we are taking. So we can say that market share of firm I, let's suppose firm I that we are taking out of the total number of firms from 1 to n in the market, and n is the number of firms, total number of firms which are present. So if this index has a very small value, it would indicate that there is no dominant player. There's no dominant player in the competitive industry because it is market concentration. So if the value is going to be less, so this would be the implication of this. And inverse, or we can say reciprocal of this index, what would that signify? So reciprocal of the HHI index that we have, it will showcase the number of firms in the industry only if all the firms they have equal share. So what is important is equal share, that would be denoted. So we can write this as SI is the, again ith is the industry, reverse of the total number of firms which are there. So overall the value of this index is between 0 and 1. So again, under the normalized form of market, we have to calculate the value of this index. So this is under the normalized form. So we need to have the value of the index, and n is the total number of firms. So this is the formula for that. So we just need to be aware about what are the measures to calculate market concentration. And second one is the concentration ratio. Concentration ratio that we have, CR. So again, here we see this would also help us in the same direction, but it measures the extent of market control by a single firm. Of the largest firm which is operating in the industry. So in a way, this will also give us the percentage of the market share. And we can also call it to be the degree of the monopolistic power of the firm. So that is also the same thing. So how do we measure this? This is the symbolic representation. So same, we take the summation from the total firms. So total M firms are there. Again, SI is used. So here SI is, what we are calculating is market share. Market share, and M is the ith firm, let's say. Whatever is the number of firm that for which we are calculating the concentration ratio. So it is important, like we have the relation of the value of concentration ratio, which tells us the degree of concentration. This is also giving us the nature of market. So how does it vary? If the concentration ratio is say 0%, it means there is no concentration. So this means we are talking about perfect competition. 0% concentration means 0% market share or very negligible amount of market share of each firm. So this is a feature of perfect competition. Now if the value is between 0% to 50%, the concentration ratio, low degree of concentration, where we see situation between perfect competition to oligopoly. A slight increase in, we can say, the monopoly power is seen to be increased as the concentration ratio increase. Then 50% to 80% bracket, the degree of concentration becomes medium. Here we see oligopoly. Completely oligopoly form of market would operate. 80% to 100%, we see degree of concentration becomes high. Here we will see a transition from oligopoly to monopoly. So you can see slightly and gradually as the concentration ratio, the value or the percentage is increasing, we see that monopoly element or the tendency and the intensity is increasing. So when concentration ratio is 100%, we see monopoly market is seen to be operating. So this is, we can say, the relation between these three things. And when you talk about the comparison of these two measures, we say the concentration ratio is not providing us the distribution of the firm size. Distribution of firm size is not available through the calculation of this value. And because distribution is not available, so we can say less about the competitiveness of the industry also. So overall, we say that the Herfindahl index is a more wholesome measure of calculating the market concentration than the concentration ratio. So now we will start with the monopolistic market. So monopolistic market is being given by the economist E.H. Chamberlain. So it is a blend of two markets. Monopolistic, where we see the features of two markets. One is a perfect competition and another is monopoly. So from perfect competition, what features are visible under monopolistic form of competition is large number of firms. Large number of firms taken from perfect competition. From monopoly, we see differentiated goods. So all these features, they become part of the monopolistic market. So there is, can say, monopoly of each good that is produced under the monopolistic form. And here we see it is subject to competition from close substitutes. Why close substitutes? Because again, differentiated goods are being produced and not homogeneous as under the perfect competition. So competition is there or we can say slightly more than what we have under the perfect competition, because again the homogeneous goods are produced under the perfect competition. Here we have the differentiated goods, which has or which brings the monopoly element into the monopolistic market. Example, there's several examples from real life. So we can say that monopolistic competition is the most pragmatic or the practical form of market structure or the nature of market that is working around us. So you can pick any of the consumer good fast moving consumer good. Let's say you can take biscuits, or you can take the example of toothpaste. So here we have different brands like Colgate or Pepsodent, we have Patanjali brand we have. So these are differentiated goods which are there, different forms of toothpaste. So this leads to monopolistic competition, and these are the close substitutes of toothpaste which are present in the market. So under features, we have seen large number of firms are there, differentiated goods are being produced. Now other features which are a part of it, you can say third feature, it would be the freedom of entry and exit. This is also part under the perfect competition, but here we can say that their relative comparison. So the entry is relatively more difficult under monopolistic because of already well established brand when we're comparing with the freedom of entry under the perfect competition. So that is little more difficult here. Then we say that influence over the prices also more under monopolistic market because of the differentiated goods which are being produced. Non-price competition is also a factor which is absent under the perfect competition. And under monopoly, we see that there is only one player, so there's no point of non-price competition. So here we focus on the quality, on the raw materials which are being used to produce to get an extra edge, and again more market share under the monopolistic competition. So even ads and marketing, that is also playing central role under monopolistic form of market. And there is absence of interdependence between the firms which are operating, so they're not considering the changes in the price policy of other firms. But at the same time, this would also turn out to be one of the limitations, because when we look at the functioning of the monopolistic market in real life, these factors are considered, like what are the like change in the strategies or the products of or the close substitutes of other firms. So we'll now talk about equilibrium conditions in short run and the long run. So first we'll cover equilibrium in short run. So what again conditions are to be met in order to achieve equilibrium here? So we assume, before moving to the conditions, that prices and the availability of close substitutes is assumed to be constant, which means the changes in the policies of other firms and other players is assumed to be constant under short run. So graphically, if we see, again, this is somewhere similar to the graphs that we saw and how it worked under the perfect competition, or even under, you can say, monopoly also. So you can see the average revenue curve and the demand curve coincide. Correspondingly, we have marginal revenue curve. Then we have the short run average cost curve and the short run marginal cost curve. So here intersection, first condition is MR equals to MC, which is marginal revenue should equal the marginal cost. So this point E is the equilibrium point. We'll extend the line, we'll get as the equilibrium price at E. This gives us the cost. So we can say this becomes the profit earned by the firm. And when it comes to the situation of normal profits. So let's say this is the economic profits which are earned. So under the normal profits, we will see same condition of tangency of the short-run average cost curve tangent to the average revenue or the demand curve, which gives us the price. And from this point, we will see short-run marginal cost will pass. So we have marginal cost equal to marginal revenue. So this is under the normal profit condition. So this is the first condition that we saw. Second condition is again that the slope of marginal revenue curve should be greater than the slope of the short-run marginal cost curve at equilibrium, which is that point E again. If you see, marginal revenue is obviously more steep at the intersecting point compared to the flatter part of the marginal cost curve. So slope becomes less. Slope is the more steeper the curve, greater is the slope of the curve. And that also reflects the elasticity also. If it is more steep, it is more inelastic. If it is more flat, it is more elastic in nature. Now coming to equilibrium under long run is also called group equilibrium, because under monopolistic competition we prefer not to use word industry, rather we say group, because again it is having a mixed nature, so we can't say that it is a completely pure industry. That is why we use the word group here. So two assumptions here before moving to the conditions under the long run. One is the uniformity assumption. So uniformity means that the cost and the demand curves assumed to be same, or we can say constant. So this is the uniformity. We can derive it from the term. Second is the symmetry assumption. So under the symmetry assumption, we assume that if there is any change in the price, that will impact the other firms by, for example, one firm wants to change the price. So it will definitely impact the other firms, but the overall impact would be negligible because of the existence of so many firms. So if one firm is changing the price, it would have a negligible impact on all the firms when it is taken together. So changes in the price, negligible impact. So with this, when we move forward to the long run equilibrium, so this is again a transition from short run to the long run. So in short run, if the firm is making supernormal profits, so that's how the transition will work out. Supernormal profits, it will attract more firms into the group or the industry. Because it attracts more firms, it would lead to increase in the supply overall in the market. This would lead to decline in the, we can say, share of each firm. Market share of each firm will decline because of the number of firms has increased. So it will lead to more division of the output share that they would be now having command over. And we can say in a way the when we say the concentration, market concentration, so that would also decline because of this. Now, the new firms will keep entering the market until we see again the equilibrium condition under the long run, which we will depict graphically. So this becomes long run average cost, and this is long run marginal cost curve. So you can see that new firms will keep entering until we see that the demand curve or the average revenue curve becomes tangent to the LAC curve, which is point F. So at F, we see long run equilibrium condition being met, and obviously MR has to be equal to the marginal cost curve. So that's how we achieve the long run equilibrium under the monopolistic firm. And at point E, we see the firms will not have any tendency to move away. No firms will enter, no firms will exit the market. So we can make now two observations when we are comparing with a perfect competition, that firm will make normal profits. That is at point F. You can see price is equal to the marginal cost. So that is why we see normal profits are made in the long run by the firm under the monopolistic market. And this is also same for the perfect competition also. So in monopolistic and perfect competition, normal profits are made. But you can see that if we say equilibrium, if we have to draw it for the perfect competition in the same graph, so it would be this point, which is, we have seen that it is always at the minimum point of the long run average cost curve. So if this is under the perfect competition, you will see both will make normal profits in the long run, but you can see the output, equilibrium output under the monopoly is lesser than that under the perfect competition. So this is one observation or change that we see. And also we see that this difference becomes excess capacity. Because of this, we see excess capacity means under the monopolistic market, the firm has the capacity to produce up till QPC level at this point, but it stops here, because further, if we say that the firm will go ahead with the production, there are chances that it will make losses. So that is why it stops at point F, and excess capacity is generated, because of which we see this region, the deadweight loss is generated, which leads to loss of social welfare. So this is not, we can say, a social optimum point, whereas this point H is a social optimum point that is achieved under the perfect competition. So second observation, we can say that equilibrium price, we can see it is higher under the monopolistic firm. Like OP is the equilibrium price level, under perfect competition it would be this. So that is higher under monopoly, higher than the perfect competition. So these are two observations. So in the end, we can say that monopoly charges higher prices without making monopoly profits. So there's been a direct question in the examination where this statement has been directly asked, without making monopoly profits. Monopoly profits are the supernormal profits, although you are charging a higher price. So if you're charging a higher price, the tendency to make profits increases, but it is still not being able to make the monopoly profits at this level, because we can see that the equilibrium condition is at the tangency. Prices is not higher than the average cost. If it would have been higher than the average cost, then it will make monopoly profits. But this is possible only under the short run and not long run under the monopolistic competition. So since we introduced a new term, excess capacity, so we'll discuss a little more about this excess capacity. What are the causes behind the occurrence of excess capacity? So one is the downward sloping demand curve. That is a reason that excess capacity would be there. Now, why it is a reason, we see because of product differentiation, the shape of the demand curve becomes downward sloping. Otherwise, we see that the ideal situation for the demand curve should be perfectly elastic in nature. It should be completely flat or completely parallel to the x-axis. But since it becomes downward sloping, when we can say that if equilibrium under perfect competition is this, under monopoly it would be, let's say, at somewhere, if it is like, obviously it has to be less than this point of Q, so it would be creating this gap. But if it would have been flatter, we can say that equilibrium would be there, so there would be no impact all in all. So this is one of the reasons. And second is entry of more firms in the short run. which leads to again decline in the share of each firm. And when the share declines, the demand curve shifts downward. So because of that shift in downward and tangency happening at this lower section, or within the falling section of the long run average cost curve, the excess capacity is generated. So we can say these are the two reasons behind the occurrence of excess capacity. Now we can have a short comparison of the monopolistic competition and the perfect competition, about the conditions and the outcomes after the analysis that we have done. So here we see that under monopolistic, price is greater than marginal cost. So you can see that this is marginal cost point E, price is at this level OP. So you can see price is greater than, this is the marginal cost level under monopolistic, and under the perfect competition, price is equal to marginal cost. That is why we see there is dead weight loss under monopoly. However, this is not the situation, or there's zero dead weight loss under perfect competition. That is why it is at socially optimum level of production, where it is having the loss in social welfare. So the graph remains the same as we have drawn above, so we're not repeating it. In long run, we have made two observations, that long run equilibrium, it is at less than efficient scale, or there is excess capacity which emerges. Again, this is not so under perfect competition. It is again at the social optimum level with zero excess capacity. So it is at, can say, full employment level. Prices here under the monopolistic, price is greater than that under the perfect competition, equilibrium price. This we have seen, and even output here is less than the perfect competition. So in the long run, we can say there are zero economic profits, because of one is the excess capacity is the reason, and another one is the allocative inefficiency. Allocative inefficiency here, it denotes that price is greater than the marginal cost. So deadweight loss, that reflects the allocative inefficiency. However, this is also making zero economic profits, but the inefficiencies or the excess capacity is absent under perfect competition. So maximization of social welfare is achieved here. So thank you so much for joining us on Ansarkari, and we'll continue with the next topic, which will be specifically related to equilibrium under same monopolistic competition, but with the Chamberlain's approach. So that is a specialized case, and that would be discussed further in the next part. Thank you so much for joining us on Ansarkari.